In this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate how to create a report in StatCrunch so that you can submit your assignments as a single document. First of all, you're going to need to open up StatCrunch. So to get there, you're going to navigate from Content to the StatCrunch button. And we're going to go ahead and click on StatCrunch. So we're going to need some data to put in here to demonstrate how to, first of all, produce some output, and then to put that output within a report. So let's look at our first homework. And you'll notice that each question has a distinct section labeled Analytic Steps and Interpreting Results. Okay. The analytic steps you can all do through this interface. The interpretation you're going to have to leave for the report once you've done the analytic steps. So in this case, we're computing a sample mean, a sample standard deviation, median, and first and third quartiles. We're also going to produce a box plot showing the sample distribution of cholesterol values. So to do so, first of all, I'm going to need to enter some data into StatCrunch. The easiest way to do this is to simply copy and paste directly from the Word document. You'll have to be careful to make sure that the data has been entered correctly, and you should have a variable name at the top and your data values below. Now that I've entered my data correctly, I can go ahead and start to run some of the analytic tasks. In this case, we're going to look at some summary statistics, and we're going to identify the fact that our data is stored in columns, as we've done here. So cholesterol is a variable or a column as opposed to a row. And each row represents an observation within the data set or within this very small study. So I'm going to go ahead and select the column variable. The default is to have multiple descriptive statistics. I'm going to go ahead and leave the default for now. You probably will want to limit the number of statistics that are produced, but just for purposes of demonstration, I'm going to just let them use the default. If you want to select specific things, you can simply highlight them and press the Control key simultaneously, and that'll select specific statistics. And go ahead and click Compute. Okay, so now we have statistical output. And in this class, instead of copying and pasting this into a Word document, we are going to save it within StatCrunch so that we can upload it into a report. So under Options, we want to save any output that we want to keep and to include in our report. So I'm going to click Save. I'm going to give this a title. Rather than the default title, I'm going to say specifically Assignment 1, Problem 1. And I may even want to be more specific than that I have descriptive statistics of cholesterol. Because notice the analytic steps in each problem have more than one step. So I want to make sure that I know when I go to look for this output, this is what I had produced. You actually don't have to worry about anything else here. Just give it a title and save it. Okay. And it has been saved in what's called your My Results folder, which we're going to access once we start building a report. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the second step for this problem, which was to produce a box plot of cholesterol. And again, I don't have to necessarily select any of the options. These are all optional features. In some cases, you're going to want to add some of these things depending on the problem. It's always good when there's a title option to say what it actually is. So I'm going to say box plot of cholesterol values. You can even say your sample size or something like that. You'll also want to label the axes if it does not do so by default. Here you can see cholesterol is already included here. So we know these are cholesterol values on this axis. Okay, so I've got my box plot. Okay, and if I like this, I'm going to go ahead and save it. And again, I want to be a little more specific here just for your own reference. So that's now also in my results folder. Okay. Now, if I'm done with problem 1, I could go ahead and start my report. It depends on how you want to work. You could go through all the problems, create your output, and then go back in to create the report, including your narrative. I would suggest doing it at a problem at a time because you can always edit your report later as you add different questions. So let's go to StatCrunch main menu. And you'll notice here you have a section called Results and Reports. This is where you're going to create a report that includes your output as well as your narrative interpretation. So this is our first assignment. We're going to go ahead and say Create Report. You're going to give it a name, and I'm going to say Assignment 1. And since this is going to be the report for all of the problems, I'm not going to say problem 1, but I will say I'll put my name on it. And this will be the report that I put all subsequent output for this assignment. So notice how a report is set up. There's a text box similar to a Word document. This is where you're going to put in your narrative responses, your interpretation of results. You can even put a header in here just to remind yourself, this is where your interpretation of results is going to go. And again, all 4 problems from your assignment are going to go into this interpretation. So I'm going to say problem 1. Now, before I start interpreting, I may want to go ahead and upload the results that are of interest. Since I've labeled them properly, I've got my descriptive statistics first. And you can see it'll give you a preview of your output. It may not show you everything. In this case, it looks like it showed me everything. And I'm going to go ahead and add my box plot. Okay. So now I've added the output, the finalized output, into my report. And now I'm ready to interpret that output, to describe what I'm seeing in that output in narrative form in order to answer the question. So if we go to assignment 1 to look at what is required, it says, write a brief narrative description of the specific values and narrative interpretation of the descriptive statistics, including the mean, median, first quartile, and third quartile. And then it says, describe the box plot in terms of the highest and lowest observed values and the overall spread of the data values. And finally, are there any observations that are outliers based on the box plot? And describe that as well. Okay, so the interpretation of results, this is all going to go into the narrative box. I'm going to have my Word document handy so that I can make sure that I'm answering all the questions correctly. So I want to say something like, as shown in the results below, the mean cholesterol level was, and then you'll just put whatever that value is based on your output, and the standard deviation was X, whatever it is, okay? Whatever it says in your output. And then you'll also want to say, the first quartile value was X, and the third quartile was Y, whatever it actually is, okay? And for a problem like that, that's sufficient. You're really not asked to do anything more than to determine what it is, but you're quantifying, you're putting numeric values into a narrative form, okay? And if you read any kind of paper in the scientific literature, there will always be a text narrative in addition to whatever's produced in the tables. Some people do not necessarily know where to look within a table or a graph. So the narrative interpretation does two things. It helps the reader understand the exact interpretation or values that you want them to know about. It also demonstrates that you understand what's in your tables. You do not have to put everything into the interpretation of results that appears in the results themselves. There could be additional information in here that wasn't asked for, or things that were there by default that you didn't intend to respond to. So that's fine. You want to, in the results section, simply highlight what was asked in the question. Okay. And the second part was asking about the box plot. So you could say, as shown in the box plot, the median, or you could say the interquartile range goes from X to Y, whatever the values are. There was a single outlier. Value of whatever it is, etc. Okay, so you want to use the interpretation of results section to simply answer the question specifically using both numeric answers and making sure that you're discussing the specific question. Okay, and then I would just continue this process. Let me make sure I save this initial report. It's kind of down on the bottom of the screen, so you're going to have to scroll down. If I click save, it's going to go ahead and be here for when I want it later. Now, I can just then, instead of creating a report next time, I can go to My Reports, open up that assignment, and then to continue to edit it, I'm going to click on Build. So if I want to go back now and add problem 2, I can do so here. Okay, and now I don't have my results yet, so I want to go in, finish the results for problem 2. Now, one thing I'm going to show you here is to add additional results beyond the first 2, you're going to have to continue to click on the plus button. These ones actually refer to a data set, so you'll have to add a few spots for additional results. Okay, we don't want to see the data, we just want to see results. So you're going to click on the plus button. Now I've created room here for at least 4 more results. You could keep clicking on the plus as much as you want. So whatever output you produce for problem 2, you'll select that. So I believe that's one there. Okay. This was done earlier, but you can get the idea. So let's go do your okay. whatever's in your results, and then you'll provide a narrative description of those results, as I've done up above. So if it was correlation or something else, I'll say Pearson's correlation coefficient was R equals 0.53. I'm making up numbers here. This indicates a moderate positive correlation, or whatever it is you want to say, between whatever your variables are, height and weight, whatever it was for the actual problem. Okay. So your narrative section goes here. Your results will be stored down here. Make sure you always save your report. Now that I'm done with my report, I want to go to the preview section, and this will show us what it will look like as a final report. Okay. This includes the full titles of the output. It includes the full narrative. And assuming everything looks okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on the print button, and I'm going to actually print it as a PDF. So when I click on the print, at least on mine, it defaults Microsoft Print to PDF. So printing to PDF is basically creating a PDF document version of your final report. So I'll click on print, and it'll ask me where I want to save it. I always save everything on my desktop. And now, if it's done, I will simply go to the course shell, and within assignment 1, and if I want to submit the assignment, I will upload my result to that assignment, just like you would any other assignment. Okay, so you just find it on your folder and upload it. Okay, this way your results are all in one document, as opposed to having you cut and paste into a Word document or having scattered results. Everything should be contained within that single report. That's it. If you have any questions, your professor will be happy to answer them for you. Have a great day.